Well, like many undergraduate students, I had no idea what I wanted to do in life, what I wanted to become. Uh, I took an advanced nutrition course as an undergraduate midway through my junior year, and it was like a light bulb went off in my head that I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, it was just thrilling to me to study how the minerals and vitamins facilitated metabolic reactions and how energy was produced and how protein was made from amino acids. And it was just, I mean, that was it. I decided I wanted to focus on nutrition.
Dave Baker was fundamentally a comparative nutritional biochemist. He was interested in how animals metabolize nutrients in their body. His lifelong passion, of course, was amino acid nutrition and the proteins from which amino acids are derived. Dave Baker worked with several species throughout his career: pigs, chicks, dogs, and also did substantial work relative to cats, the feline. His techniques and his research was very often applicable to nutrition of humans. For example, for perhaps 40 years, Dave defined the field of nutrient availability, both of amino acids and of trace elements. Dave contributed very substantially to our understanding of nutrient requirements for all the species with which he worked, and he served on most of the NRC committees over the years that compiled nutrient requirements for these species. Probably his most substantial contribution, above all, was what we now call as Illinois Ideal Protein. It's arguable today that his Illinois Ideal Protein for swine is the global standard for that species in creating effective formulations.
Well, I think most true scientists would tell you that the thrill of discovery, whether by design or by accident, is what really is a turn-on for a scientist. And in my case, the ability to design specific purified diets to accomplish experimental objectives. In this day and age, most scientists buy their diets. They don't make them. We still make our diets. And in fact, a lot of the diets that people around the world buy were developed right here at the University of Illinois, and several in our laboratory.
I first met Dave, I think, in the early spring of 1973. We had several conversations, and out of that came a letter several months later inviting me to do graduate work, to do a PhD at the University of Illinois. I came into his lab only about 5 or 6 years after he had become a member of the faculty. Dave and I overlapped for 86% of his career at the University of Illinois. And I had never appreciated the extent to which he had been a part of my life. I was really challenged to meet the standards that Dave had set, and I think what I learned from him enabled me to achieve much more than I would have otherwise. I think if you were to ask Dave what his most significant contributions would be, he'd certainly talk about some of his research. But I believe he would also say my students. I think he produced 36, 37 doctoral graduates who have had very significant impact in many different ways in the field. Dave was very proud of his students and never lost interest in their careers, never lost interest or desire to support them as they continued to evolve in their own careers.
When my former graduate students or postdocs do something great, get recognition, whatever, it's almost a bigger thrill for me to see that than when I myself have been rewarded in some way.
I think Dave Baker, for all of us, allowed what were probably some rather ordinary talents to achieve things that they would not have been able to achieve without his support, his encouragement, and his intellectual challenges. One's tempted to ask from time to time, will there ever be another Dave Baker? an individual who made profound fundamental contributions to science, and yet at the same time was very comfortable at the very applied side of his discipline, formulating diets and dealing with questions of practical feeding management for several species. Will there ever be another person who can span that breadth of interest and make very real contributions across the entire spectrum? I hope so. The world needs those kinds of individuals, but it may be a while before we see another one.